Today we're going to work on a very simple application, and I used Python to create this application, and it moves my mouse I can change this interval, so every 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 minute, whatever. And it comes in handy when you want, when you're working from home and you don't want your computer to go to sleep, and people are working from home, they know what I mean. So yeah, I will try this. Like 3 seconds is good for me. I just want to try it, and I won't move my mouse, but in every 3 seconds it moves the mouse and it goes back to the start point. So yeah, I'm gonna show you how to create this. Hello everyone again. So let's go ahead and start with our tutorial today. So I'm gonna using two libraries, tkinter, to create a user interface, graphical user interface for my application. I'm using pyautogui, which is to helps Python or uses Python to make some physical changes in your computer. So that's how I'm gonna use this to move our cursor around the screen. So I'm using a class, and if you don't know how to write a class in Python, you can go ahead and check out one of my tutorials on how to use the classes. It's pretty simple. It might be confusing at the start, but when you see the all the default combination of the things are happening repeatedly, it means that you know how to use it. You're gonna get to use the file. So I'm gonna use let's go ahead and split this into different parts. So I have this class, and I'm using, this is just the first part of the class, which is kind of by default, and in case if you want to write a code to do something, you need to change and modify it by your choice. This part is what actually we're using tkinter library to create our application, and this is the main loop to run our class over and over. And here we have different functions. So the first function to move actually the mouse, to show that where we are moving the mouse, and these numbers mean that X and Y axis. So technically I will talk about this afterwards. So we have a start function, so whenever we want to start the operation, we are going to use this start function, and stop function to stop the operation, the function from running, and we have the run. So when you're starting a function, you're actually running something, so that's where we are using this run. And at the end, it's how usually softwares are working. So when you call this file, it goes ahead and runs this MouseMover. And what is MouseMover? That's actually you see here, the name of our class. So nothing really confusing in here, I hope so. Talk about our class in here. I start with an interval input. So interval is the time that we're gonna insert to our function, and it's based on seconds. So how many seconds do you want to in how many seconds do you want to move your mouse every time. So this is the interval that we are going to use, and we are having here starting with the tkinter. So it needs, this is by default what we use all the time. You can call it root or whatever you want. So and at the end you see that I stopped the I set this root at my main loop, so it gets running and running every time we use this loop, and that's how it works. And this is I could have imported tk from tkinter, but I didn't use it. I mean, that's okay. You can import, like, go ahead and import like tk from tkinter. Then you don't need to use this part. So if you use tk, it will realize what you're talking about. So that's how it works. And we have a title and we have a geometry. Geometry means like the size of the screen, size of the application. Title means, as it's clearly mentions, it's the title of the application. So I went to terminal. I don't know, sorry, you don't see my like terminal button here, but that's fine. I'll just click in here and create a new terminal. I'm using VS Code in here. So if you go ahead and type Python and name of the application or the file that you save, you can simply run it. So that's here we have our like, let's call it the application or software or whatever. And yeah, you see here the title means that here what I'm using, MoTechClub, and you can modify it, and the code is available on the description, so don't worry about it. And geometry means that I'm using like this size of the screen. You can go ahead and change it to whatever number you want. Like I'm gonna try this just 200 to show you. See, now it's smaller. I wish, yeah, it's not smaller, but I wanted to see my channel's name, so that's why I tried like 300. Go ahead and save it, and if you run it, we're gonna get to that point. Very simple. So we know that what is title, we know what is geometry now, and we're having a label in here. By label I mean like this interval. It's actually just presenting just something that we would like to say, like input, output, whatever. So it's interval in here. I'm using this interval as here. Nothing really specific. It's just a label, and using pack. Like you see, I used pack many times for tk, so it means that you're actually running this function. Very simple. And pad through x and y axis means that you want to keep a distance for this. So keep a space in between of things. So you really don't want to like I don't know, connect everything together so it looks very ugly at the end, like interval to this field and field to start and to stop. So that's why we're using some space in between. Let's go ahead and continue with like interval entry. So as you know, we have an entry here, so you can enter whatever you want, and that's why we are using tk.Entry. So we realize that this is an entry, and it's always, you see, the self.root, you know, because when we are using like running self.root function, we want to run everything together. Yeah, that's why we're using this self.root everywhere. So it means that like every button, every entry that you're using in this code is part of the root function, so it gets running every time you run this function in general. So, and the command that we are using here is start, and for the second button, for the stop button, it's stop. So where are these functions? These functions are down over here. So I defined the start and stop function, and we're going to talk about that. And what you see here is different. It means that the start, when you run the function, you don't want to have a stop available, because you cannot stop something that you haven't started yet, and that's the point of having that this tk disabled. So it starts with the stop disabled, and if you start it like this, then stop will be enabled and start gets disabled, and that's how it should work. So yeah, root like pack again, same ideology, let's say. And with self.root, that means loop, you can tell the Python that every time I'm running this code, I need to run the whole loop again and again, and it gets running until you close it. That's how softwares usually work. And yeah, let's go ahead and start with the functions. We have like 4 functions in here. first one to move the mouse. So here we are using the pyautogui function. It's like move where, x and y, and here I'm returning it back to the starting point. Very easy. I'm using a start and stop function. It gets the interval, so it needs to know for how many seconds it should like pause and then do the movement and then go back. So that's why we need interval in here, and when we are pushing the start button, it's running, it's true, and start button should be disabled after running it. That's like it's the ideology behind it. So but the stop button will get to this normal point. So like, let me show you again. This is available now. I started, the stop button gets to normal version. So you can like push the button. That's how it works. And then it runs, like the timer runs on the run function, and it, like it keeps running for like 10,000 times, like 1,000 times of the interval. So it really depends on you. You can change this number if you want to like run it only 100 times in interval. So you choose 10 seconds and you want to run it for, here it will run for 10,000 seconds, no more. And I'm using the run function, and we're gonna go to the run function as well. So the stop button has the same ideology, nothing is really different. It's in normal state when you're running it, but stop button gets disabled, and same thing. And after cancel, so root after cancel gets cancelled. You know, when you push the stop button, it gets cancelled. And the run function, we talked about it in here. It keeps running and running until the time ends. And yeah, it's also connected to the MouseMover. And if you don't know what MouseMover is, it's this function. So it moves the file and you run the function. Very simple. And at the end, like every other software that we have, if you want to keep it running, like from let's say terminal, very easy. Whenever I call Python, the name of the function, it runs the MouseMover, and MouseMover is the name of the class in here. And that's it, the whole thing. And you will have the access to the code in our description, so don't worry about that.